All right, good morning or good afternoon. This is step 5. We're going to be looking at language planning now. Okay, so we have kind of looked at our categories. You've planned and you've written that. We have gone over your storyboard just to get your ideas straight in your head. I will still be looking at them to make sure that your ideas aren't absolutely insane. I'm still nervous about Brooklyn, to be honest. We'll find out what's happening with all of you when we're all back in the school. Now we're looking at planning your language section. Now this is important because this is your second kind of assessed piece that we are planning now. Okay, it's content research 1, and we will all be doing language. We're all going to do language because it means that I know you have thought about what you're going to do for this piece of media. All right. My expectation here is that you will all do language in your assignment, as it's straightforward and will give you plenty of specific direction for making your media assignment. I should really read my bullet points before I go off on my own tangent, because often I'm just repeating myself, and I do apologise. Again, this shouldn't be a long loom. This should be under 10 minutes, and my last one was 10 minutes 30, so it's almost under 10 minutes. This one should probably be under 10 minutes because, again, it should be fairly self-explanatory for a lot of it. For this loom, you are going to need media language. PowerPoint General is number 7. That is the one we made up and went through when we looked at Black Panther. It takes you through some of the more basic media language techniques, but basic is, not gonna lie to you, probably all you guys can hope for in terms of what you yourselves can produce, simply due to limitations of time and resources. So I would strongly advise you to go through that PowerPoint yourself. I'm not going to take you through it, but it will be the one that starts genre conventions and runs all the way down 96 PowerPoint later to something about a group news thing for a different class. But apart from that, it runs down to form conventions. So have a look through that yourself. It's got a lot of good ideas. It is uploaded, and I do strongly recommend you have it there so that if you're struggling for what to annotate your storyboard in, for instance, you can have a look at it. But I will very, very briefly take you through media language, some more varied ideas. This is because a couple of people were off when we were looking at that. This is more recent. It is a recap more than anything else. So like I said, it will be a very, very quick recap. Most of it, I'm just going to point out what it's doing. So the first thing it covers is storyboarding. We actually already have a PowerPoint on that, but it recaps what you should do, and it gives you my specific kind of instructions of the details I want on your, storyboard. Okay. It goes through kind of what your storyboard will look like. As I said, there's a thing here, and I wrote nothing. As I said, all I want you to do is the top bit. I actually don't need you to do the written section yet. That will come later. Only focusing on the key scenes as we went through, and then we move on to language. Now, I'm not going to talk you through every slide here. There's a lot of them. You can take yourselves through them. It's fairly self-explanatory. But what I'm going to draw your attention to is the links. The links take you to Instagram pages. The Instagram pages tend to be movie specific, so they are focusing on things that have been done in the film, but it will be very useful for adverts and public service announcements as well. It gives you different ideas. So this is from the Grand Budapest Hotel. They didn't find a hotel that looked exactly like that. They had a very specific idea of what the hotel should look like, and then they recreated it themselves. Okay, you've got little recreations. Now, I'm not saying you can do that. That probably took people days and days, if not weeks. But you can do similar things. If you want a specific backdrop, you might be able to, or something like that, you might be able to print it off or find somewhere where you can create it in some kind of different way. It is up to you, but it is an option and it's something worth thinking about. When we're looking at colour and lighting, I do strongly advise you check out some of these. Ultimately, though, they do all come under these 3 Instagram pages. Colour palette is all about colour and lighting. It's very cool. It breaks down this one. It breaks down the dominant colours in a scene as you move across that scene. and what it allows you to do is see a split. So here it starts dark, and then you get your kind of yellows, and then it goes back to darkness into your blues, and you get a nice split between these two characters. Very pale skin on kind of yellowy oranges, and then you've got quite dark skin on kind of more muted blues and whites. So you have a definitive kind of divide between the characters, represented by the color palettes used on each. So I do strongly recommend having on the color palette. The Film Zone and Cinema Magic are more focused on different ways that things have been filmed. As I said when we were looking at this in class, a lot of it is very ambitious, but it's cool, and it'll hopefully give you some ideas. If you look at what they're doing and you think that's cool, I could never do that, but what could you do? What could you do instead? How can you simplify it? What are some of the simple techniques that they're utilizing that you could use? All right. It gives you a rundown of some of the key techniques. So if you're not wanting to go all the way through the other PowerPoint, if you think, now I've got most of it, this will give you a rundown of some of the key techniques, one of them being acting and makeup. So this is a good one for both areas of costume and acting. All of these are the same man. This is all Daniel Day-Lewis. He's just a phenomenally talented guy. So it's worth bearing in mind how different a feel you get from each of these, even though they all span probably roughly about 20 to 30 years. Maybe so, probably about 30 years, which is pretty cool. It takes you through a few more techniques, a few more Instagram pages. I'm not going to take you to any of them. And then at the end, you've got kind of a couple of different examples of how sound is applied to American Horror Story, Phineas and Ferb, and something else. And you're thinking about just the different techniques that are used to evoke completely different reactions in those two. I'm not really going to take you through anything else here. I think that's quite straightforward. The next thing I'd recommend is going over your storyboard and filling in as much detailed annotation as you can. So you've had your first pass at your storyboard. All right. Now what I want you to do is I want you to go over it again. I want you to kind of have a think about, okay, now that I've looked at language again, looked at colours, oh, actually, lighting here would be quite important. Oh, actually, camera angle here would be quite important. Composition here would be quite important. Okay, what else can you put into your kind of wee space for annotations? What I'm going to allow is that you can use half of the lines now. So if you want to start filling in the space below with some more detailed notes of what you're going to do, you can use half of them to describe, firstly, what's going on, and secondly, mainly the language that you'll be using. Language is going to be your big focus on these storyboards, so I'm happy for you to take half of the lines to fill that in. Okay. I would strongly recommend you revisit your storyboard before we go on to the next slide, because the next slide is going to be you starting your official planning for your content research language section. So, final thing that we're going to do is look at filling out the planning table. It's contained in the document 9, Content Research Language Planning, which is here. Okay, and let's enable editing because that should make it less annoying. It didn't. Oh. So it is quite simple. I'll show you another example in here in a minute, but just to talk you through it. One of the key areas that we will write about and plan for in your planning section is language. We'll do this by focusing on 5 different key uses of media language that you plan to use in your assignment. Now, I would strongly recommend you pick different ones. What I mean by that is do diegetic sound once, non-diegetic sound once, lighting once, costume once, prop once. That's 5. All right. You shouldn't need to go sound, lighting, props. Okay, you should have plenty that you can talk about. So you're going to pick 5 different ones, and they're going to go in your technique name. All right. All right, things like that. Then you describe your technique. Okay, what does your technique do? How are you using it? So you can either put that in lighting. Okay, you can put that in technique, lighting, dark, poor, and then give me a little bit about, okay, why? What does that do? Okay, dark and poor lighting is a common horror convention. as it obscures what is going on, equaling fear of the unknown or unknown. Right. Oh well, it was very wrong. Unknown is a difficult word. How can unknown? Oh no, I'm being an idiot. Right, so you put in a little bit of detail there. Research proof. This one is really important. This is what a lot of us were missing at National 5, is your proof. How do you know that? Now that can be literal research. You can look up someone who says, yes, 80% of people prefer dark things in their movies, horror movies or whatever it may be. Or you can go, okay, I watched 5 horror movies and I don't know, what's it called? Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch, Gothica, and The Shining. There were scenes where dark poor lighting was used to increase tension. Now, impact on your assignment might feel like it's a little bit like technique described, but I want you to be specific about what's going on in your assignment as well here. So I will use poor lighting in the scene where the clowns come out. I don't know why. It will have bright colours coming from darkness in a scary, ominous way. I don't know. Alright, that was literally the first thing that came to my head. Alright, that's something you can put in. And you're describing what it'll do, what you'll be doing, and how it's going to kind of work. And then, although we've kind of touched on this already, I want you to then start linking it to other key aspects. Okay, so you might think, okay, one key aspect is going to be my categories. Okay, I'm actually doing an advert. Therefore, will people be as invested? Will it be as creepy? The answer is probably yes. Yes and no. People will still find it creepy because it's still that fear of the unknown. It's still something that you want to find out more about. But equally, people won't be as invested. They're not as attached to the characters. It's an advert that's come on for 30 seconds. They're not in that frame of mind. So it won't have that impact. So you don't want to give away too much, and you could talk about that. Then you might go on and say, okay, well, we're talking about language, but then how does that impact maybe representation? Dark equals creepy. Okay, nice and simple. So there you're just putting in how does it link with any of the other key aspects that we have looked at. And that is how you would go through your media content kind of planning. And you would do that 4 or 5 different techniques. Okay. If you want to do it in your jotter, this is just a template. If you want to do it in your jotter, if you want to write it in paragraphs, I mean, I would strongly recommend you do it in a form that you can email to me, because ultimately, if I'm not happy with what you write up, then I will have you email it to me, your planning section, whether it's a picture or a document, and I'll see where you went wrong in the planning stage. That's also worth bearing in mind, guys, that I will ask to look at the planning stage if I have any qualms about what you've created. So I would recommend doing it digitally if you can. If you can't, then just get it done in a jotter, and then you can take a picture of it. Just now, all I'm looking for is this kind of basic detail. All right. If we have a wee look at that, that's going to come in at probably about 100 words when we're all said and done, when we've gone through all the elements, because then that'll make it really easy for us to write it up. Okay. Another example, one that I did was here at the bottom of this PowerPoint. Diegetic sound, music which originates from within the world. I watch horror movies and discovered that creepy music is good because it builds tension or whatever I discovered when I was watching it, and I've decided to include whatever kind of music, and it will have the impact of increasing tension because I'm base it on your research. And then you can talk about how it will engage your audience, how it will achieve your purpose, why it's effective for an advert, whatever other key aspects you can put in. Okay, and this one I have highlighted that the key areas I would look at would be audience, purpose, and form, but it's up to you. I realise I'm going through this quite quickly, guys. I do apologise. I have a splitting headache, so I am just looking to get this done. That's fine. The better you do here, the better you'll do in your ultimate kind of write-up, which is the next step. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go through the write-up step as well because it's phenomenally straightforward. For your write-up, I strongly recommend that you revisit BA Media Planning Guidance and NB Media Assignment Guidance because both of them have resources in them which are still very useful. Okay, here we've got our creative intentions, but then down here I think we have language or narrative or something like that. There you go, you have conventions. So we have oh no, they're in categories. Fools! But there you go. It will still give you a good idea of the template. This one reminding you that you need to research your decision and the evidence of what your decision, what impact it will have, and things like that. The new battle one, which is a really good document as well. Again, this one more like what we are looking at ourselves. We're all the way down to production roles. Narrative and language in here, you'll only be choosing one, you'll just be doing language, but again, it gives you a wee bit of a breakdown of what we are looking for, how we are going to kind of put it together. So research finding, what are you going to do and why are you doing that based on your research. All right, combine that kind of structure with the planning that you should have done and your storyboard, and you should have plenty to say, because again, when we are looking at this, we are looking at between 750 and 1250 words. It is a fair chunk that I'm looking for you to write. It will be worth 5 marks and should be split into 5 different paragraphs with 5 different pieces of analysis, i.e. each one should be one different piece of language that you're looking at, and it is assessed and it will count towards your final grade. I'm not sure if I've seen you guys since, but you'll probably now be aware National 5 exams aren't going ahead. The goal is still to keep higher exams going ahead, but what we'll need to start doing is collecting a massive body of evidence from you guys so that if there are any issues, we can put you forward for a really strong grade if you have that evidence and if you deserve it. The other thing, again, I would recommend looking up here is checking out the Understanding Standards website that we ran through somewhere down here. Media Hire Understanding Standards in step 3 if you want to revisit it. Again, that is you get some good examples of people who are doing very similar things to us and where they're picking up the marks, how they're picking up the marks, and why they're picking up the marks. It wasn't my intention to do step 6 with step 5, but then I saw step 6 was 2 bullet points with absolutely nothing to reference. So I thought, oh well, might as well. Now all I need you to do is email me your final typed accessible work. That means if you haven't already emailed me your response to the brief section, email me that with your language section. It should be 750 to 1250 words each, which means that your final product should be a bare minimum of 1500 words and an absolute maximum of 2500. My email is posted in our team's group. My email is posted here somewhere as well. My email's all over the place, but you'll be able to find it very easily. If you have any questions, let me know. If there's anything I can help you with, let me know. But realistically, that is what we are looking at just now. I hope you have had a fantastic October break, and I'm very excited to see you all again soon.